himself, Jason Liska.
I was like, no.
Eric's getting kind of excited about this.
And yet here we are again in Florida, as always. I know it sounds boring to say so, but yet again, I'm staring at the lake and it's beautiful and it's cloudy and we've had like 20 million storms pass us. And some of you listening have already experienced some of that weather. But you know what? Today, we're not going to talk about weather. We're not going to talk about the lake. We're going to talk about our subject, which is smoke diving. And we have a couple of really awesome instructors with us tonight. And I'll tell you, not that I am well versed in what a smoke diver is or what they have to go through. I do have friends, I do have acquaintances who have been through the program. They have all brought back a lot of perspective. They have all brought back a lot of information and training that helps keep us alive in the job that we do. So we're going to talk to a couple of my friends this evening, and they're Oklahoma smoke divers, actually, starting out as Georgia smoke divers from, well, that great state of Oklahoma, go figure, right? And they're two veteran firefighters with the city of Tulsa, both district chiefs, one of them newly promoted. So this evening, I want to introduce my friends, Bryan Lloyd and Chad Miller. So welcome to the show, guys. It's good to have you.
Hey, thanks for having us, man.
Thanks for having us on.
Well, you know, here's the thing. You guys have carried a program from several other states and incorporated it into Oklahoma. And what you have done is something spectacular with Oklahoma 1, now transitioning to Oklahoma 2. And I'm going to be honest, I think it's tremendous to see this accomplishment occur. So let's get to that in a minute. We're going to talk about you guys, starting with, well, Chad, I know about you, but Bryan, you're the anomaly here. So you're kind of the front runner and the new guy. And I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to meet you and actually get to sit and talk with you before we started this episode. But you've got 21 years. You've been around the fire service, and this is not something you considered doing. You got in the military right out of high school. You deployed several times. You were going to deploy for a third time and, you know, re-up, I guess, and say, hey, I'm going to make this a career. And then somewhere deep down inside, you said, no, I think public service is the way I want to go. And here we are. So now you're sitting in the district chief role and you're in training, which makes sense. So where did I leave off? Pick up from there and tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Man, that's you covered a lot of it. Just for the veterans out there, I deployed once. I was on my third. I was getting ready to re-up for my third time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I didn't say when we talked before is you know, I had an experience in my life where and I'm not going to go into it, but I got to see 911 up close and personal. Unfortunately, with someone that I cared about deeply. And you know, I was sitting there when the first responders showed up, and you know, I saw what they did, and it really impacted me. And so, kind of when I was talking to you earlier, you know, I was home on leave, and it's a funny story. My uncle, who was a cop, but he used to always say, "I wish I'd have been a fireman." He said, "Hey, man, I think you'd fit in, you know, with the firemen I know, and there's a test coming up. Why don't you go take it?" And then building off that experience I just had, you know, about a year before, where I'd seen the firemen in action, the first responders in action, I thought, you know, this is something I could see myself doing. I really love the military, but I would really like to be, I'd really like to be that person that when someone is having their worst day, like, that I can make a difference, man. And so I just kind of rolled the dice, and I said, if I do well in the test, I'm going to get out of the military. And if I don't, I'm going to stay in. I did well. Got on, here I am, you know, 21 years later, like you said. And, you know, I'm an anomaly. You never heard of me because I'm nobody special. Like, I look at the guys you've had on your podcast. We've been on a few others, and I see the people on before me. And for God's sake, Harold Scheitberger was on before the episode before Chad and I. And I'm like, we're a couple of rednecks from Tulsa, Oklahoma, man. But, you know, it's funny that we've been on 21, you know, for 21 years almost. And most firemen, I think, that I've met are very humble. And even with almost 20 years on, as we started building this program, I don't know if Chad did, I know that several times I started thinking, who am I to think that we can do this? You know, who am I to think that we're good enough or trained enough or qualified enough? But at the end of the day, who we are is a couple dudes that we want to get back to the fire service. So we want to take that 20 years of training and we want to make a positive impact on the Oklahoma Fire Service and the fire service across the United States. So it's kind of like, you know, if we don't do it, who is going to do it? And, you know, we joke with people, but it's really not a joke. Had we known how much work it was going to take to get here, I can't honestly say that we would have done it. But like all firemen, once you tell a fireman you can't do something, then it's kind of like, hold my beer, bro, watch this. And so we kind of got, you know, we got past that point of no return where we're like, we're not looking back. We are going to complete this thing.
Yeah.
And with the help of a ton of people that I couldn't even begin to thank, we don't have time to thank, but a ton of the Georgia smoke divers, the Mississippi guys, you know, here we are today and talking to you, and it's been an awesome ride, man.
Well, you talk about your experience, and we're going to hit on a couple of the highlights of what you just shared. And most of my friends who are in the military, they all end up becoming civic minded in one form or fashion. When I say that, they go the route of law enforcement or they go the route of fire rescue. And I think a lot of it has to do with the structure of the fire service being a paramilitary organization. It's something like-minded to what they've experienced in the military, so they can adapt to it well. It's task-oriented, team-oriented, well, military, camaraderie, military, brotherhood, military. So there's a lot of comparisons there. And I think that's why a lot of our brethren who serve this great nation of ours, they end up working either as law enforcement officers or they work as firefighters because that's what they're tuned into. So inadvertently, they didn't realize that until they got into the fire service. You know, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, well, I rolled the dice, but this is what I was meant to do. And I think that's an amazing thought, you know, and part of a greater journey. You know, we bring people into this field that have no background, no pedigree, no clue, no level of service before they walk in. Some work out, some don't. But my military brethren, our military brethren, seem to thrive in this profession because of what we are. And you talked about being a couple of Okies, you know. Well, let me tell you something. You're not just a couple of Oklahoma boys, all right? I'm a fat guy with a great mustache, and I say that all the time. I'm a nobody myself, but here's the thing. You have a passion for what you do, okay? And you talked about the journey and how it was difficult getting to this point. You talked about the fact that if you knew now or knew then what you know now, you might not have committed to it. But here's the thing. You committed to Georgia smoke divers and you passed it. So that just said right there that you had the ability to do anything you wanted to do because you could surpass your greatest, weakest points. And guess what? You and Chad put smoke divers with a group of dedicated instructors together for Oklahoma, and look what it's done. Look what it's done.
Absolutely, man.
Man, you say it way better than we do, man. You're hired.
Listen, it's a simple observation, which, you know, when you guys were running in sync with Indiana, I'm almost certain I was still in Phoenix or it was right after I got back from Phoenix. They ran in sync, basically. And I watched, I watched Indiana, and they showed about 3 days worth of video, and about day 4 or 5 they kind of shut things down. And it was after Phoenix because I think some of the instructors I was with in Phoenix actually were smoke diver instructors, now that I think about it. And watching those videos and seeing what I've been able to see at the fire college here in Florida during the smoke diver program that we put together, what a journey those gentlemen and even the ladies who make it out there have to endure to accomplish such a task.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. You know, our programs ran the identical time frame, and so every morning we actually had an Indiana smoke diver with us for our class, and so every morning we gave a little briefing to Matt Stewart and Nolan and their group that said, "Hey, this is what we finished the day with," and so every morning we were comparing numbers. So we have a little instructor debriefing first thing in the morning. So we were getting updates from them. They were getting updates from us. And it was really cool to be in step like that with them for our first class.
I think they had 86 instructors, Chad. Is that correct? 86, 88 instructors in Indiana when they put that program on this year? And that was,
No, I can tell you, man.
was it less than that? Because I thought they had a large
That's what
cadre for some reason.
We had about 86 when you looked at all the ancillary stuff on the ground. And
I got you.
Indiana, man, they did it with what they had in Indiana. They literally, I won't swear to their numbers, but they probably pulled their class off with, somewhere around 20 to 30 instructors, I think is the number that just sticks in my head. So
I may have inverted the numbers then, because I might have been looking at the still shots from Oklahoma in the video from Indiana, because I think you guys did do some still shots of the class, but that was pretty much like morning briefings and then throughout the program, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. And I'm sure we'll get into this, but when we started putting this thing together, we paid like we've talked before, none of the instructors get paid for the program. And we had almost 80 Georgia, not just Georgia, Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, Texas, Kansas. We had 80 plus Georgia instructors come in. And man, at one point I'm like, bro, I'm gonna have to get a bigger hotel because I don't think we got enough rooms to put all these dudes up. So
it's a great problem to have.
It was phenomenal. Just to see it come
in typical Oklahoma fashion. When we picked them up from the airport, we had a cattle trailer for all their luggage.
that right there screams Oklahoma. If nothing else does, the fact that you picked up their luggage in a cattle trailer, that's perfect.
They had a nice bus for them, but luggage was a cattle trailer.
God, I hope you guys at least cleaned it out before you threw their luggage in there. Dear God. So Chad, after talking to Bryan for that first moment of the show and getting his bio out there, I want to talk about you for a second. You're also in your 21st year. You and Bryan went through your training academy together. You guys have come up in the service together, and recently you just got promoted to district chief. And I remember our first conversation, we were laying the groundwork, to get this interview to happen back in May. It was the day before Mother's Day that we spoke, actually. And I remember you saying, man, I got this studying I got to do. I've got a big promotional exam coming up at the end of the week. And, I don't want to dilly dally. And here you are now in September, and you're a district chief. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, like you said, Bryan and I came on the fire department in Tulsa together. And, we've been early on, we were in some of the same places on different shifts. And then we kind of drifted apart and went our own ways. And fast forward about 15 years, we've stayed in touch. But we came back together at the training center in 2016. And, we've really been walking through this journey, kind of hand in hand ever since. So, and yeah, man, it's great to get the promotional process out of the way and to be a chief now in Tulsa is a big honor for me. So we just keep moving on, man. Just keep, putting one foot in front of the other.
That's all you can do. So let's get into the meat and potatoes. Bryan, when you realized you were going to Mississippi to do that smoke diver program, as we talked about before the episode, what were your expectations before you walked in the door? Because you went to Mississippi and Georgia.
Right. I had none. I was too new to have any idea. I didn't know if a smoke diver jumped out of planes, like came in through the underwater access. I literally had no idea. Just and it kind of being funny, but what it was is one of the chiefs on the job. He was our chief over all the special operations. He's a guy that I respected, and like I shared with you earlier, I was just working out at the headquarters weight room, and he came in and said, "Hey, you want to go to the most challenging training I've ever undertaken in the fire service?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And I said, I knew that if he was telling me to do it, that I knew it was going to be good. And I really didn't know. And this is back before, Facebook and all the social media, and I don't know. I'm sure internet was probably around early 2000. I can't even remember that far back, but I didn't have any way to like investigate it. I didn't know anyone that had been. I just really relied on my military training, and at the time I'm a lifelong martial artist. I was training. I was doing MMA, and so I was in really good shape from that. And I just started. At the time, I was in so Chad and I were both in the downtown district, and I just started running all the high rises in my gear, carrying heavy equipment, and I was trying to get in the best shape I could. But honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea. And I showed up, and it was run a lot like a military in training. And it was just how Mississippi does it is it's 8 evolutions a day, and you have three chances at each evolution to pass. If you fail 3 tries, you're gone. And it was just you come in, you spend about 30 minutes in the classroom, and the rest, just like our program, is all outside. And so, like I said, I didn't know what to expect. I just knew that I trusted that chief officer, that if he told me to go and it's going to better my career, I trusted him. And I can tell you that I had about 2.5 years on the job when I went, and I knew that when I came back, it gave me. I was blessed to have an awesome company officer right out of the academy, Captain Tony Raines, and he really like molded and like he was just a great man. We still communicate, and so I was getting a lot of good training from him. But after I came back from that training, I had the confidence that I don't know a lot yet, but with all the training I just got this last week, where they basically put you in every horrible situation a firefighter can encounter on the fire ground and train you to stay calm. It just made me feel more confident in my abilities as a young firefighter. And that, coupled with a great company officer and a great crew, it really helped boost my confidence as a young firefighter, and kind of set me on a good path for success, man.
You think it made you a better company officer when you stepped up into that role?
I've no doubt. And it helped. It just helped me make me a better firefighter, and not in that, hey, I'm better than anyone because I did this by any means, but it just, I can remember only 2 or 3 times in my career, but being in really bad fires, or I was involved in a Mayday call, where I was on the RIT team that went in on a down firefighter about 8 or 9 years ago. So 2 or 3 times in my career, I have reached back into that playbook of things I learned at Smoke Diver, and it helped me to stay calm. Now, it doesn't mean that I still trained on those skills in the Tulsa Fire Department, but I got that base laid at the Smoke Diver program, and it's helped me over my career to stay calm. It's helped me to one of the other big things about all the programs is the servant leadership, and stressing on, just because you did this, you're no one special. You're not any better than anyone else. The expectation is that you're going to take this training back to your crew, and you're going to teach them this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was really hammered into our heads, especially in Georgia, man. They pretty much tell you that it's not like they're not going to require it, but it's expected that you're not just coming in to get the black shirt and get the coin and all that. It's expected that you're going to come through this, and you're going to go back to your department, and you're going to make the guys and girls there better by giving them that training.
Well,
so that's what it helped me as a company officer, especially the chief officer. And I'm not going to lie, man, like from the time I was 5 years on to like 15 years, I still did training. I still tried to do a great job. There was a point where I kind of got comfortable. And once I was involved in that Mayday in 2011, it made me realize that, man, 1 minute I can be at the station watching Naked and Afraid, and the next minute I can be going in and dragging out one of my best friends on the fire department, and that we cannot get comfortable. That as long as we're going to be on the truck or in the station, it is incumbent on us to be, mission critical, that you have to be able to contribute to the team. And that really like reignited my passion to, hey, whether I'm a chief officer, captain, firefighter, I have to be learning. I have to be bettering myself. And just so happened that we met the guys from Georgia, and just helped me to understand that, man, you can never stop learning in this job, man.
You talked about servant leadership, and Chad, we're going to get to you in a second, because we're going to get to Georgia 1. I have 2 friends with Georgia 1 stories, and you're number 2. Okay. Servant leadership to me you give of yourself before all else. Okay. You give to your crew, you put them ahead of your needs, you give of yourself to your community. You basically dedicate your career, right? This is what you do. You're a civil servant, tasked with doing an extraordinary job. Okay. Law enforcement, the fire service. It doesn't matter if you're a volunteer firefighter, paid firefighter. But one of the things I've talked to these young ones about when it comes to becoming an officer, when you look at where am I in the spectrum of being ready? What have I done to prepare for this? And when I finally get that bugle or two bugles, if you're a lieutenant or captain, and you finally get the nod to move up into that rank because you earned it, right? Are you mature enough, and are you capable of staying humble? Are you capable of admitting mistakes when you are at fault? Are you capable of empowering your crew? Are you capable of ensuring that their needs are met? And then, of course, there's the outside of the box stuff that you have to consider as well. So with that, I think that the bugle is just a representation of the rank itself, but it's the character of the person who wears that bugle that matters the most when it comes to being a company officer.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And one of the things that I've witnessed as the training chief, and just as Chad and I and other guys have taught around, is that no one ever wants. It's like once guys think that they're an officer or a captain, chief, whatever, they don't want to admit. And I'm the same way. And Chad's the same way. It's just human nature. They don't want to admit that they don't know something. And but that hinders your progress. That hinders your growth. And it's like one of the things that we do at the training center. And we actually got it off of old school Frank the Tank. That part where they're in the
my boy Blue, sticking through the quad.
That part where they're in the counseling, and he goes, "Oh, are we not in the trust tree?" But all joking aside, when we do training, we tell the guys like, "Look, we're in the trust tree here, and if you don't know something and you feel stupid for not asking, that's okay. We're not going to leave here and go say, oh, hey, John didn't know this basic thing here." It's not about that. It's about how, when we come to training, the goal is to get better and to leave better than you were. And unfortunately, it's just men, man. Like we bust on each other, and that's part of it. But we got to get past. We got to be able to admit if we don't know something.
Yes.
And that was hammered in my head in Georgia Smoke Diver. Like I'm going through the training, and there were a few things that I'm not gonna lie. I was a chief at the time. I hadn't forced the door, and I don't know, or there were certain basic things I hadn't done in a while, and it showed. And that when I got back though, it made me think that that's never going to happen again. Like I've got to stay up to date on these tasks, even if I'm not doing them. I'm still a firefighter first and foremost. But the biggest thing is for the guys out there listening, especially the new officers, is you don't have to know everything. It's okay to not to know everything. And hopefully you're in an environment where you can admit that, and the guys and girls around you are gonna help you build and grow. And that's it, man. But that's one thing. The Smoke Diver program, it is very intense, and the training is pretty challenging. But the guys there don't expect you to know everything. Yeah, there's some good natured joking, but at the end of it, they want to make sure that we want to make sure that when people walk away from it, that we have helped them correct any deficiencies, so they can take that back to their departments, their communities, and then pass that along.
Well, the goal should always be mission success to 100% when it comes to any kind of training. And if it takes, 10 evolutions, 20 evolutions, once you get to that fine tuning, that's where you're going to separate yourself from the observer to the doer, in a sense, right? So Chad, let's go back to you, because Georgia 1.0. How about that? That was when?
Oh, man, we went in November of 2016. 8 of us went there.
And I think we talked about one of my guys from Lake County who might have been in that program with you at that time, wasn't it? Or was it a different program? Well, he went through Georgia Smoke Divers, but I can't remember if he was in your program or if he was in the program thereafter, just before you.
I don't remember, to be quite honest with you.
That's okay. There have been several Florida guys that I know have gone to Georgia, which I find fascinating too, that, we can do it here in Florida, but we have all the other programs out there from Georgia to Indiana, now Oklahoma. And if the Mississippi program is still up and running, which I'm not 100% sure if it is or isn't,
it is, yeah.
that's an amazing opportunity as well. But Georgia 1.0, getting back to that, you were screamed at from the other side of the building. Hey, what's up? We're going to smoke divers. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, Bryan, we were at the training center together, and our offices were at other ends of the hall. And, I tell this story, he conveniently leaves it out, but he's just like, hey, Chad, he's like, we're going to go smoke divers. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, no, I'm serious. And I'm like, okay. And man, that was it. That's how it started. Bryan had been to FDIC and met with David Rhodes, the chief elder of the Georgia program.
Mm-hmm.
And David had said, hey, that's great. You want to build a program, but you got to come and see us if you want our stuff.
Okay.
And Bryan and I have both, CrossFit very, have taken training pretty seriously throughout our careers. And so we started recruiting guys, like we said, and
mm-hmm.
not just people that were like-minded that we felt would buy into that program, but at the same time and we told everybody this when we started, is we don't need you to go down there and complete the program and come back. We need you to go down there, complete the program, and then help us build ours.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the people that we were looking for. And man, we went, and 8 of us went in November of 16, and Bryan's the only one that completed the program. We failed 7 guys. So we come back, and I can tell you, a lot of people that whether it's Georgia or Oklahoma, our success rate we've talked is around 50%. And it's not a fun experience, man, to come home and have not completed something. And it took me an entire year to get back there, and I thought about it every day. But man, we've tweaked our training a little bit to be more prepared physically for the task at hand. And we went back with 10, and myself, Jason Smart is the third guy for me and Bryan that, we created the program, established the 501c3, and he and I both went and didn't make it. And we both went back and completed it in November of 2017.
And now in that time frame, I remember you telling me that you went to Chief Rhodes on multiple occasions and said, okay, I think we're ready. And at times he would say, no, you're not ready. It's not happening yet. You're not quite there yet. We've got to evolve this just a little bit further. So walk me through some of that. What were some of the frustrations you guys had with trying to bring this great program to Oklahoma and make it happen for number 1 this past year?
Man, David Rhodes and Brent Hollander, the 2 chief elders of the Georgia program, they've been absolutely spectacular, and a ton of other guys too. But when we started, they said, hey, look, you need 20 instructors in Oklahoma. And so Edmond had 11, and then we started building ours. And then we got to 20, and there's like, well, you need a few more. We need to get to 30 or 40.
40. I said we needed 40.
You said 40 is the number.
Yeah. And so, man, we kept taking guys back every class. We were taking 10, 8, 6. Our success rate was doing pretty good. We were graduating about 60 to 70% of the guys we took.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point I remember, Bryan and I were like, man, we're doing this right now. And those 2 guys were like, no, you're not.
Pump the brakes.
That was it. It was in Indy. We were in their suite having a drink, and we're like, look, man, we got this many dudes. Let's go. And they're like, no, you got to wait another year. And then fast forward the first week, like day 2, Hollander goes, aren't you glad we waited another year? And I'm like, there's no way we could have done it.
Good God Almighty.
So yeah, they really know what they're doing.
So you guys brought back something real quick, and to get those higher numbers, okay, the 60%, the 70% pass rate, did you tweak your own training to get these guys better prepared to go to Georgia and pass? Did you guys do things in-house, or did you just let them go on their own?
Man, we built a 16 to 17 week physical training program, and it looks like this. You start in t-shirt and shorts and tennis shoes, and you get to where you can do continuous workout for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then the biggest thing for us is now we put you in your gear, and then we build you back up to work at being able to work out in that gear for an hour. And we tweaked that we didn't give anything away to our
Mm-hmm.
guys. Our goal was to prepare them physically for the challenge that they were going to have, make sure that their basic skills that they needed, they were proficient in. We told them nothing about what the evolutions were going to look like or what
Mm-hmm.
what they were doing. And we drummed on them for 16 weeks that the part we can't control is the 6 inches between your ears.
Which is that beautiful mind. Yep.
Yep. And so, yeah, we did. We tweaked it over a couple of classes, and I think we've used the same training program physically for the last 2.5 years now. We
Mm-hmm.
got it where we liked it. We haven't really messed with it very much since then, and it's worked out pretty well.
And that is actually it's on Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things about Florida's program, about Georgia's program, they've been around for a long time. And in those states, guys can, hey, if they want to go do one, they can probably, like you were mentioning, go to the training academy and find 3 dudes that have been and get some tips. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma, it's new enough that, we're trying to build the program, and the program is tough enough that, we want to get guys and girls as prepared as possible so when they show up, it doesn't do us any good to build the program if we pass 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
So what we started doing is we started putting out our 17-week program on Facebook. And at first I thought, no one's going to want to see this. Well, I missed a week I'm like the worst Facebook page moderator in the history of Facebook. And like, I'll have guys that'll say, hey, I thought you were going to post week 3. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm horrible at this. So I actually just updated it today and I go, hey, here's a month's worth. There you go. Talk to me in a month.
Nice.
But the reason we're doing all that is like we're trying to still build our numbers. Georgia's program has over 1,100.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Florida's is, but I know it's a lot. I know Mississippi's is up over 1,100.
Mm-hmm.
And we're 50,
at 42.
So we're trying to get everyone as prepared as possible. The only thing that we're not giving away is what happens in some of the evolutions. And the cool thing about it is a lot of the evolutions when we were going through Georgia, Chief Rhodes would tell the guys, hey, you can take this stuff back to your department. We want you to share what you learned here.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't give away the final test and the final few things.
Sure.
So that way, even if someone only comes through and makes it through 3 or 4 days, they're still going to come back with a lot of information. When we came back from being the successful completion of the program, we ended up in Tulsa. We do quarterly company drills where every 3 months we bring out the entire job.
Mm-hmm.
And we ran company drills for about 2 years just off what we learned at the smoke diver program. Every 3 months we teach them 2 or 3 things. And a lot of the guys that probably would be interested in going and doing the physical part, they still loved the training. So it was really win-win, man. And it's like it's like the cool thing about this program is not everybody wants to go do it. Not everyone can physically complete it, depending on where they're at in their life, age, injury-wise. But if only a few men or women from each department can pass it, they can still go back. And like, it's like and like I told Rhodes, I'm like, man, I see this smoke diver program is like a shotgun blast.
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 dudes pass it. They come back, they rack the slide, pull the trigger, and they send that blast out, and they send that training out through their department, through their community, through their state. And that's what's so awesome about the program is even if you just get a handful of people to pass it, they can still share that training and make their department better.
You talk about the fact that even if you don't make it to day 6, right? Here's the thing. Days 1 through 3 are still important. Days 4 and 5 are still important. And like my friend Chris, who was in class 1, he talked about in our podcast we did last week, I made it to day 1 and I knew I wasn't ready. Okay. And he said, but here's the thing. I knew because I wasn't ready, I knew what I needed to do to get ready for the next go around. And again, there's no shame in that. And even in Florida, talking to Chief Campbell, Don Campbell, and Rick, Chief Talbert, and my friends who have all successfully completed smoke divers and are part of the cadre, they're okay if you don't make it to day 6. They're not going to punish you. They're not going to chastise you. They're going to encourage you because they are all part of a group that have all taken an oath, for lack of better terms, to not condemn those who can't pass because maybe there was something off that day. Maybe they just weren't 100% committed mentally. And that's a big part of it. You talk about the 6 inches of space between your ears, right? The physicality is one thing, but you've got to get the mind over matter aspect, like with anything when it comes to intense training, where you're broken down to the point of exhaustion and expected to do more, and that's a standalone kind of mindset there. Oh my gosh, am I capable of doing this? Well, just because you warrant now doesn't mean you won't be the next time, because you take that experience and you bring it back, and what you've learned, you give it to or pay it forward to your peers.
And touching off what you just said is, just because a guy comes and is not successful or has no interest in coming, we train all over the nation, and we meet guys that have forgotten more than we'll ever know.
Mm-hmm.
And coming through this program doesn't mean you're the elite top, of the best firefighter around. I mean, it's just, is it going to make you better? And is it going to teach you a lot about yourself, what you're capable of? 100%. But that's the thing that we want to convey, is that, man, we don't think we're better than anyone else. We're always we're students of the game, man. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. We're trying to learn. We are, like I said, and Chad's the same way. Whether I stay 10 more years or 8 more years, I'm gonna learn something every day. I'm gonna keep driving forward and trying to improve myself until I leave. And that's all this program is. And it's like, okay, we've got through the smoke diver program, but now we're gonna move over here and we're gonna get better. What I'm saying is, this isn't like the pinnacle of whatever.
No, because there's more to learn. There's more to grow with.
As you know, it's like, what's crazy about the fire service, it's like you could spend 20 years in the discipline of the rescue
Mm-hmm.
training or hazmat or search and rescue. But what's crazy about this job is, like, we have to know all of it.
Yeah.
And we have to be competent in all of it. So to think that you're ever gonna, like, my dad was a Marine and he's a Vietnam vet. He said, from what his experience is, the guys that got hurt or killed were the guys that started getting comfortable thinking, I know it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you can never get comfortable, man. You always have to be challenging yourself. And that's what this program is going to do. It's going to challenge men and women to get better. But then the thing that we stress is, this is just the beginning, man. This program is just the beginning, and you have to get out there and share what you've learned. And then we're trying to motivate people to, like, just keep moving forward, man. I mean, I'm going to stop there. I can talk about it all day.
It's good. It's good.
And Jason, or not Jason, I'm sorry, Chris is a great example, man. We met him in Wichita Hot.
Yes.
Yeah. He came to our class.
Met him at the hotel after
we sat and talked to him and said, and he was like, hey, man, how do I get more of this? And like I said, he came, we talked to him a lot, as he left the program, and we still have, I keep in touch with him a lot via email, and hey, how's it going? And how's the training coming? And
yep.
We want him to come back. We want them all to come back. And I can tell you I told him the same thing, man, I know what it's like to walk away from a smoke diver program and not be successful.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, when we see him again next spring, in March for class 2, he'll be ready. And
I don't doubt it.
And he'll get it done, and he'll be a great asset to our cadre.
He talks about the fact that he's 48 and going back. And I said, well, you just set the bar. You set the bar high for guys like me who are in their early 40s. And it's like, well, if you can do it at 48, then there's nothing impossible to accomplish,
So building off that, it reminds me of a funny story. Is probably like the third group. And I said this in another podcast we did. The third group, the Georgia guys are like, hey, do you guys have any freaking young people in Tulsa? I said,
no, they're all like,
they're like, because all these dudes you're bringing are freaking ancient. We're like, and I was like, well, they're all our buddies, man. So they're all like 40 to 45. I said, okay, but we'll make a concerted effort next class to bring some young dudes. But we were honestly bringing guys that were like 35, 40 to 40, early 40s, because they were all guys that we came on with, And so that was funny. So I think Georgia. I think Rhodes told me their oldest dude was 53.
Wow.
I don't remember his name, but he was from California,
Mm-hmm.
and they said he was like a triathlete, and that he graduated and then was like flying back to California. So you graduate on a Friday,
Yeah.
and I had to lay like in my hotel room in a bath of Epsom salt for like 12 hours. Just joking, but But this dude flies back to do a triathlon on Monday, so he was a freak. I mean, he wasn't normal. But
That's abnormal.
The oldest dude, I think they said, was 53.
You sure it wasn't an android? Because no one can physically do that. Okay.
Yeah, it's T3.
Oh Lord, you consider California's full of smog right now, and that's the smoke. Especially, you're gonna come from California, get your ass beaten smoke divers in Georgia, and go back and run a triathlon. Nah, that's incredible. That's incredible. So Okie 2, Oklahoma Smoke Diver 2 is coming, and that's going to be when?
So we've got on the books for February 29th.
At the same dates as we had before. So February
Okay.
29th through March the 5th. COVID willing, there's still a lot going on with COVID-19. So it depends on where we are with that, but tentatively scheduled for that very first week in March.
Well, let's take a second and talk about lessons learned then, and what you guys brought out or took out of Oklahoma 1 and the 12 graduates, and who's coming back. And now that you've been through this, now as instructors and successfully completing Oklahoma 1, what are we going to bring into Oklahoma 2? What were some of the things you learned that'll help make Oklahoma 2 a different or stronger class for the next go around?
Man, the methodology, the week is set up, pretty much the same. The difference for us, in like we talked before, we had 80 instructors that weren't from Oklahoma that came here and helped us put it on. And so the challenge for class 2 is we won't get that many back.
Okay.
Our numbers will probably drop down to around 60. So the challenge of putting the same type of class and not, deviating or dropping the intensity down is good. The first class, we had the guy that was the key, person in Georgia was standing right next to that Oklahoma guy that has to be the key guy in Oklahoma. And he was whispering and nudging and, hey, look at this or do this. So our challenge is to be able to replicate that without those key guys standing there with us. And make sure the program lives up to the intensity, lives up to the purpose. So we have some challenges logistically to make sure we are doing more with less, quite honestly. But man, we learned a lot, and we developed some great leaders within our cadre that really got a chance to shine in class 1 and come into their own. We got 12 brand new guys to bring in, and we've had a couple of training opportunities where we've had them come in and help us teach and shadow, and they have really good potential there. So, and man, the challenge is just getting the word out. We had, when we did our qualification, we had 5 different states, and we put the very first smoke divers in Arkansas and Missouri out of class number 1, the very first smoke divers out of any of the programs. And so those guys are back there, they're recruiting for us, they're bringing us new candidates, and just to get it all put back on the books and get it going again.
And most people don't realize that the cadre is unpaid. And when they come in, I don't know about airfare, considering some of them are coming from out of state, but lodging and everything is kind of on them as well as the rest, is it not?
So we were very fortunate in that we got some donors. We just through contacts we met, and we had some people come out and watch some of our training as guys were preparing for the Georgia class, and we had some great donors. And so we were able to, and Georgia does this as well, in Indiana, we were able to, through the donors, pay for the hotels of all the instructors that came back. But they still had to take off from work.
Oh yeah.
Pay for shift changes, and Georgia they've got guys in the command trailer that track. You know, it was funny because when we first started, the chief's like, well, are these guys competent? I'm like, Chief, if someone farts out there on the training ground, it's getting documented on a form somewhere. But all joking aside, they track everything, and they told us all the guys coming combined cost them about 50 grand to come do our program with having to trade or pay guys to work for them or use vacate or use vacation, whatever. And so it's been great. And I kind of wanted to touch on your question of what I learned on this last class as the chief elder is that when you're going through the program, you're not worried about anything but passing. And, and when you're putting it on, especially as the chief elder or Chad's is second, right behind me, is that there's the kind of men and women that come do this training are, for the most part, they're not going to stop, period. And it's like, just like in the military, this training, how I describe it is, it's hard to get real training sometimes because you don't want to, especially when we're training cadets, we don't ever want to hurt any of them. Sometimes it's not as intense as we want it to be. And in the smoke diver program, I kind of liken it to, we want to train up to the razor's edge without cutting anyone.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to know, because these guys aren't going to quit. And it's very hard as the person overseeing the program to tell someone, look, man, you're done.
Yeah.
Because, and you can see in their face, they just like deflate, like they've been training for 6 months. They came from 3 states away. But at the end of the day, they have a long, we have to realize as senior firefighters that these men and women have a long career ahead of them. And our number one focus has to be looking out for their best interests. So yeah, we want to give them this good training, but also just as leaders of the program, the last thing we want to do is hurt anyone or anything like that. So that, for me, I'm walking around all week just like, how in my head I'm thinking, how far do you let these guys go?
Yeah.
When do you tell them you're done? When do you say you've had enough? And we were very fortunate through a contact that Chad knows, is that we had a doctor that is big into CrossFit, done some other extreme sports, that the whole thing kind of intrigued her. And she's like, oh, I'll come check out a day. Well, she came and watched it. She's like, man, this is pretty cool. So she kept coming back and said she wants to get even more involved in the next class. And so we were pretty fortunate to have, a medical professional. And one of the other things that I want to brag on the Georgia program about is they have a whole, it's a type 3 IMT team.
Yeah.
And they've got a, I guess what they call it, a safety EMS unit. And it's staffed by all paramedics. And all they do is they walk around during the training and they just look for any guys or girls that are having issues.
Okay.
And that actually helped a few of our guys, like, because it's like I said, you want to train the guys right up to the edge, but you don't want to hurt anyone. And so like we learned a lot of great lessons from them. We incorporated the same thing. We've got a squad of paramedics. They just walk through looking for everyone, but now we were able to get a doctor on board. So that was the biggest challenge, is really protecting firefighters from themselves, because most of us, we don't want to quit. That's, there's something I've found that is, I guess, all firemen share it. And that's that we don't want to let people down.
No.
What draws us as professionals, we want to help people and we don't want to let anyone down. And so we see these men coming through this training, and it's like they don't want to let anyone down. So it's like we got to protect them from themselves. And that's been a huge challenge in the training. So I kind of just wanted to touch on that. That was a good question. And that's been very challenging, is like protecting guys from themselves, really,
Well, I think that what people should take away from this then is, while this is extreme training, while we're pushing firefighters to the breaking point and then rebuilding them in a sense, the redundancies built in, the safeties built in are designed to keep, like you said, hitting that and going beyond the razor's edge, that is. And I think that's why you're going to see a better, I guess, in the sense, graduation rate, because you have people who are experts or paramedics, obviously have training. They can identify the signs of heat stress and fatigue and issues like that, because there's no denying what smoke divers do in training is probably more intense than any standards burn they ever went through or any in-house training they probably ever done, because of the coordination and the effort put into it and logistics. I mean, I'm sure there's probably not much that compares to it, to be honest with you. And so what you guys are doing is building a program for success and creating a pathway to success. And the most important takeaway here, and I've heard it from both of you, is the importance of staying humble when graduating this program. Doesn't matter if you graduated from Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, you've got to stay humble, because you're not on the top of the mountain just because you became a smoke diver. You're a well-trained and well-oiled machine that learned what your limitations are and received some of the best training out there from experts who have been doing this for decades. And guess what? You take that training, you give it back, you pay it forward, and you prepare the next generation to come in and do the same.
Absolutely. I mean, if you boil our program down, I think that's about as basic as you can get, is come through, do it, pay it forward. Like Bryan said in the beginning, we have tried to build something to make not only the Tulsa Fire Department, the Oklahoma Fire Service, but the fire service in general better than when we found it. So,
amen. And on that, gentlemen, we're going to close this out, because I said 45 minutes. We went to roughly 50, but that's okay, because sometimes these conversations tend to drag on, and it's a good thing, because this was insightful, and this was definitely a conversation I look forward to having. So whoever wants to, let's get the Smoke Divers website out there, the Facebook page out there, and let's get some promotion going for February, because the preemptive strike here is going to be coming here soon for everybody to get in and get registered, right?
Yeah. So our website is www.oklahomasmokediver.com. Right now, if you're interested in being a candidate for Class 2, and the contact page, mine and Bryan's email are both in there, and you can email either one of us. You can reach out to us on our Facebook page, which is exactly the same, oklahomasmokediver.com, and message us there. The message will hit both of us. We'll reply back, get some information from you. And then when we get close to qualification day, we'll email all that out and say, hey, here's qualification day, and here's what it takes to come and try to qualify to be a candidate in Class 2.
Right on.
And for all you young guys out there listening to this, I had a ton of conversations with chiefs of departments. They weren't familiar with the program. So what I'm saying is, if any guys listening to this that are interested, and you pitch it to your department, they have questions, reach out to us. We're very responsive through Facebook Messenger. Give us your number. We'll get a hold of you, and we'll help you guys out.
Rock on, brothers. Thank you for coming on today and sharing a part of history for Oklahoma. Because you guys are now on the map as a smoke diver state, joining a cadre of instructors with decades of experience who are dedicated to giving back to the fire service, and for being who you are in the fire service, even with 21 plus years on, in your mid to late 40s, and saying, you know what, I'm still okay to do this because I know I want to give something back and still learn at the same time. So that being said, guys, thank you. Congratulations on Smoke Diver 1 and the accomplishment this year. And I look forward to seeing my brother Chris and all the other candidates going in with Smoke Diver 2 this February and being successful and coming back as cadre with you guys.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for the opportunity to come on and let us share our program and all of that. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks for having it. I'm going to have to step on my mustache game after seeing yours, man.
Now I'm humbled, okay? I'm going to make my own challenge coin for the mustache. That's what I'm going to do.
There you go.
It's going to happen. You watch. So that being